Hey guys, Lord Naren White here, the Holy Ghost, the one true God. Back with you with the next video in our series, Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. Without further ado, returning to Great Expectations. Was I absurd? Said Biddy, quietly raising her eyebrows. I am sorry for that. I didn't mean to be. I only want you to do well and to be comfortable. Well, then, understand once for all that I never shall or can be comfortable, or anything but miserable there. Biddy, unless I can lead a very different sort of life from the life I lead now. That's a pity, said Biddy, shaking her head with a sorrowful air. Now, I too had so often thought it a pity that, in the singular kind of quarrel with myself which I was always carrying on, I was half inclined to shed tears of vexation and distress when Biddy gave utterance to her sentiment and my own. I told her she was right, and I knew it was much to be regretted, but still it was not to be helped. If I could have settled down, I said to Biddy, plucking up the short grass within reach, much as I had once upon a time pulled my feelings out of my hair and kicked them into the brewery wall. If I could have settled down and been half as fond of the forge as I was when I was little, I know it would have been much better for me. You and I and Joe would have wanted nothing then, and Joe and I would have perhaps have gone partners when I was out of my time, and I might even have grown up to keep company with you, and we might have sat on this very bank on a fine Sunday, quite different people. I should have been good enough for you, shouldn't I, Biddy? Biddy sighed, as she looked at the ships sailing on. And returned for answer. Yes, I'm not over particular. It scarcely sounded flattering, but I knew she meant well. Instead of that, said I, plucking up more grass and chewing a blade or two, see how I am going on? Dissatisfied and uncomfortable? What would it signify to me being coarse and common, if nobody had told me so? Biddy turned her face suddenly towards mine, and looked far more attentively at me than she had looked at the sailing ships. It was neither a very true nor a very polite thing to say, she remarked, directing her eyes to the ships again. Who said it? I was disconcerted, for I had broken away without quite seeing where I was going to. It was not to be shuffled off now, however, I answered, the beautiful young lady at Miss Havisham's, and she's more beautiful than anybody ever was, and I admire her dreadfully, and I want to be a gentleman on her account. Having made this lunatic confession, I began to throw my torn-up grass into the river, as if I had some thoughts of following it. Do you want to be a gentleman to spite her or to gain her over? Biddy asked me after a pause. I don't know, I moodily answered. Because if it is to spite her, Biddy pursued, I should think, but you know best, that might be better and more independently done by caring nothing for her words. And if it is to gain her over, I should think, but you know best, that she was not worth gaining over. Exactly what I myself had thought many times. Exactly what was perfectly manifest to me at the moment. But how could I, a poor dazed village lad, avoid that wonderful inconsistency into which the best and wisest of men fall every day? It may be all quite true, said I to Biddy, but I admire her dreadfully. In short, I turned over my face when I came to that, and got a good grasp of on the hair on each side of my head, and wrenched it well, all the while knowing the madness of my heart to be so very mad and misplaced, that I was quite conscious it would have served my face right if I had lifted it up by my hair and knocked it against the pebbles as a punishment for belonging to such an idiot. Biddy was the wisest of girls, and she tried to reason no more with me. She put her hand, which was a comfortable hand, though roughened by work, upon my hands one after another, and gently took them out of my hair. Then she softly patted my shoulder in a soothing way, while with my face upon my sleeve I cried a little, exactly as I had done in the brewery yard, and felt vaguely convinced that I was very much ill used by somebody or by everybody. I can't say which.
I am glad of one thing, said Biddy, and that is that you have felt you could give me your confidence, Pip. And I am glad of another thing, and that is that of course you know you may depend upon keeping it always so far deserving it. If your first teacher, dear, such a poor one, and so much in need of being taught herself, had been your teacher at the present time, she thinks she knows what lessons she would set, but it would be a hard one to learn, and you have got beyond her, and it's of no use now.
So, with a quiet sigh from me, Biddy rose from the bank and said, with a fresh and pleasant change of voice,
Shall we walk a little further or go home? Biddy,
I cried, getting up, putting my arm round her neck and giving her a kiss.
I shall always tell you everything. Till you're a gentleman, said Biddy. You know I never shall be, so that's always. Not that I have any occasion to tell you anything, for you know everything I know, as I told you at home the other night.
Ah, said Biddy, quite in a whisper, as she looked away at the ships, and then repeated with her former pleasant change,
Shall we walk a little further or go home?
I said to Biddy we would walk a little further, and we did so, and the summer afternoon toned down into the summer evening, and it was very beautiful. I began to consider whether I was not more naturally and wholesomely situated, after all, in these circumstances than playing beggar my neighbor by candlelight in the room, with the stopped clocks and being despised by Stella. I thought it would be very good for me if I could get her out of my head with all the rest of those remembrances and fancies, and could go to work determined to relish what I had to do, and stick to it, and make the best of it. I asked myself the question whether I did not know surely that if Estella were beside me at that moment instead of Biddy, she would make me miserable. I was obliged to admit I did not know for a certainty, and I said to myself,
Pip, what a fool you are.
We talked a good deal as we walked, and all that Biddy said seemed right. Biddy was never insulting or capricious, or Biddy today and somebody else tomorrow. She would have derived only pain, and no pleasure from giving me pain. She would rather have found her own breast than mine. How could it be, then, that I did not like her much better of the two?
Biddy,
said I, when we were walking homeward,
I wish you could put me right.
I wish I could, said Biddy.
If I could only get myself to fall in love with you. You don't mind my speaking so openly to such an old acquaintance? Oh dear, not at all, said Biddy. Don't mind me. If I could only get myself to do it, that would be the thing for me. But you never will, you see, said Biddy.
It did not appear quite so unlikely to me that evening as it would have done if we that evening as it would have done if we had discussed it in a few hours before. I therefore observed I was not quite sure of that, but Biddy said she was, and she said it decisively. In my heart I believed her to be right, and yet I took it rather ill, too, that she should be so positive on the point. When we came near the churchyard, we had to cross an embankment and get over a stifle near a sluice gate. There started up from the gate, or from the rushes, or from the ooze, which was quite stagnant, was quite in his stagnant way, old Orlick.
Halloa,
he growled.
Where are you two going? Where we should be going, but home. Well then, said he, I'm jiggered if I don't see you home.
This penalty of being jiggered was a favorite supposititious case of his. He attached no definite meaning to the world that I am aware of, but used it, like his own pretended Christian name, to affront mankind, and convey an idea of something savagely damaging. When I was younger, I had a general belief that if he jiggered me personally, he would have done it with a sharp and twisted hook. We'll go ahead and stop there for this week. As usual, I want to say thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Please like, comment, and subscribe, as it greatly helps the channel. Light be with you all. Take care, and thanks again.